everybody. So if you're familiar with what is going on in the gaming world and gaming controversy, you will know that Mastercard has put up a little bit of an oopsie that people are not happy about, and Steam is now, well, Steam, I say Valve specifically, is involved. And we have this video here by Belly Law. Valve was forced to censor games. Now they've outed Mastercard. Yes, there are games that have had to be taken away from the Steam store because they don't comply with some things that Mastercard have set forward, things that they don't like you purchasing. Ooh, and we all know it gets a bit dicey when these banks and like payment processors, really these payment processors having control over what you can and cannot buy. That becomes a problem for your freedom. So let's take a look at a deep dive by Belly Law into what exactly is going on with these payment processors.
Who controls what games you can buy?
Wait, let me go back. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do, and you will gain 2 inches on your PP. Okay, that is a fact. So let's get right into the video.
Who controls what games you can buy? The answer sadly is not Steam, it's not developers, and it's not even governments, because this week actually proved that it's Mastercard. They can fine platforms $200,000 for selling games with, quote, no artistic value, because apparently Mastercard are the judges of artistic value. But
that's, like, to me, that is the strangest thing. Like, Mastercard doesn't own your money. They don't own your spending power. Like, who are they to decide what you can and cannot buy with your money? It's so strange. Like, what and how does this benefit them at all? That's what I need to know. How does it benefit them at all? Or, like, is this some kind of roundabout way to protect themselves from people buying strange things using their, like, payment processing services? Like, are they trying to protect themselves more than they're trying to protect you? Like, what is actually going on?
Here's what Mastercard did not expect. They did not expect thousands of gamers flooding their call centers, and that actually working. And with that happening, the payment processors are beginning to crack. We've even got Valve making big statements. The payment processors even finally admitted a little bit of a truth that lies beneath all of this. It's a humongous story, and so it's actually understandable. We've got to begin with collective shout. But hang on a sec, I've got something really cool. So, do you know what's nice? Never not having the cable that I need while also having a bag that isn't full of cables. And today, Ugreen, who are our sponsor, are at it again, and they're letting me achieve that. So get a load of these, right? This is their latest models, which now have got built-in retractable cables. These are absolutely amazing. But it is still handy to have a cable in case you need one, say for charging multiple devices, and that's where this comes in. This is, very simple, a little retractable cable. And man, it's absolutely brilliant. It's got a tiny footprint, and it never gets tangled, it never gets snagged, and it stores away neatly. It's so nice. And then, of course, we got the 20,000 milliamp hour battery. This thing is awesome. It'll charge up at 100 watts. It can output 100 watts as well through its retractable cable, plus 65 watts from the USB-C at the same time, for 165 watts of once, which is enough capacity to recharge your MacBook Air 13 1.3 times, or say an iPhone 16 3.6 times, which is a lot. It's very handy when you're traveling, and it'll charge from every port at once. And then finishing off my kit, this is just lovely. 65 watt charger, retractable cable built in, and I just really didn't appreciate how nice it is not having a rat's nest of cables everywhere. And of course, being Ugreen, these have overvolt, overcharge, overtemperature, and short circuit protection. And basically, I'm always staggered by their price to performance. It's actually at the stage now where my parents, my partner, and my colleagues are defaulting to Ugreen for very good reason. And you'll find the best prices for these with the links below. Let's start with the people who kicked this off. Activism group Collective Shout decided to set the record straight. Obviously, they really did kick quite the hornet's nest. So, they say that they're fighting false claims and misinformation, and here's their story, at least as they present it. They say they only reached out to payment processors after Steam ignored them since April, and their post stresses something that they say is very important. The Collective Shout never asked itch to remove all adult content.
Let me see, we called on itch.io to remove that and incest games that we argued normalized violence and abuse of women. Itch.io made the decision to remove all NSFW content. Our objections were to content that involves sexualized violence and torture of women. Okay, so that's how this started. Is that how this is? So Collective Shout just wanted a particular platform to remove certain games that were whatever. So they were having a movement for that. That's how this started, right? Is that how this? Okay, understanding.
Just content that involves sexualized violence and torture of women. Now that is content that's actually illegal in some territories. Now what they said here is partially true, but there's a little bit of a problem. Their original call to action explicitly framed these platforms as
what?
Facilitating child
demanding payment processors stop facilitating incest and child abuse game sales. We have discovered 7 who are quite happy to take a cut from hundreds of these things, theme games, which we found on popular gaming platforms such as Steam and itch.io. Oh, okay. So it's not just the platforms, but the payment processors themselves. Wait, let me guess. The payment processors folded to the demands. Is that the problem?
Game sales. That's the thing. They didn't just say specific games. They said platform. They targeted the platforms. And that's the sort of content that would be globally illegal. And therefore, very good reason for payment processors to act swiftly. So, what's really happening here? How do we actually break this down? Essentially, right, Collective Shout wants to take credit for their win, but they also want to deflect blame for how it actually played out in the real world.
We have indexed all adult NSFW content from our browse and search pages. We understand that this action is sudden and disruptive, and we are truly sorry for the frustration and confusion caused by this change by LIFO. So Itch actually went through with it. They just complete ban on NSFW content. Indexed. Okay, so they completely scrapped. That's crazy.
They basically say that they wanted specific games to be removed, but they never back that up by actually mentioning what those games are. And then they imply that they couldn't predict how Steam and Itch would react to what they did. That masses
How influential is Collective Shout? Like, to enable to have such a large voice and like pull power in order to get something to like happen or a change like this, like how big was their demand and how big was their movement? Because I've literally never heard of them before. They are really rich. I've never heard of Collective Shout in my life until like today, or like recently over this whole thing, which is kind of crazy. They aren't now. They got folded. Gamers will destroy them. Damn, I've literally didn't really know much about them. It isn't they were influential. They were just big enough nuisance.
Games would end up being purged. But here's the thing, Collective Shout. Don't patronize us. You've used payment processors before. We know you know how this works. But at least for now,
oh, wait, what is that? Mastercard?
They couldn't predict how Steam and Itch would react to what they did. That masses of games would end up being purged. But here's the thing, Collective Shout. Don't patronize us. You've used payment.
Mastercard and Visa cut ties with Pornhub and millions of vids removed. Earlier this year, Collective Shout was a signatory on an international letter calling on Mastercard to stop processing payments for the pornography industry. Oh. Okay, so they're going after it everywhere. So it's not just like abuse, like sort of, you know, NSFW abuse and violence. It's all NSFW content they're going after. All of it.
Payment processors before. We know you know how this works. But at least for now, they're simply deflecting.
Like, who are they to decide what people can and cannot buy with their money?
Blame. They're arguing that Itch didn't have to purge everything. But here's the problem. Realistically, they're wrong. Itch pretty much had no choice. It's a sensitive topic, but Itch has talked just about as much as they're able to. With single-digit staff, they're essentially juggling angry developers, rightly angry developers, and a bunch of technical problems on the platform. Certainly doesn't look fun, and we've got this July 28th FAQ that explained their lack of options. Essentially, right, because Itch is an open platform.
Why was the Itch's response greater than Steam's? Itch.io is an open UGC user-generated content platform with over 2 million product pages. Anyone could publish content at any time with minimal barriers. We could not rely on user-provided tagging to be accurate enough for a targeted approach, so a broader review was necessary to be thorough. Oh, is this like a quote-unquote excuse? Do people believe this is an excuse rather than like a reason? Like, oh yeah, we just have to be broad. We just have to be broad, and definitely not because of the demands of like other people.
platform, they couldn't just remove specific games like Steam does. That's because they simply don't know about every game, because it's an open platform. They have a single digit staff.
It shows a small company both in team size and in transaction volume compared to a company like Steam. We have limited ability to push back.
Count. So in an ideal world, creators would just be honest about everything and that would solve the issue. But we all know that that does not work at scale. So they essentially felt that mass de-indexing.
If we lose our ability to accept payments from a partner like PayPal or Stripe, we impact the ability for all creators to do business. Losing PayPal, for instance, would prevent us from sending payouts to many people. Our actions were taken to protect our payment processing abilities for as much of the platform as possible. So would that have been the case that like Mastercard or something like that or PayPal would have pulled out if they continued to allow the NSFW content? Is that what it is? Oh my god.
Basically had to happen. At least that's their point of view. But Itch does say that those games, they've been de-indexed. They're not gone. So here's what they maintain. The de-indexed or delisted content should still be.
Pages that are de-indexed are still accessible if you own them. They have not been removed from your library or collections.
Available to users. That's of course as long as creators haven't went and removed the pages themselves. Now there's been confusion here and that's down to some games. Consume Me, Last Call and Mouthwashing were flagged by players and press. But what's odd is those games were already de-indexed before any of this stuff started. Itch's position is basically that if you lost access to a game completely, then something is wrong and you should.
We are aware of some people making claims that content has been removed from the library on social media. If you are one of those people, we strongly urge you to reach out to support so we can understand what exactly you're expecting to see, as none of the changes we've made as part of this review should impact your access to pay products.
Should contact them, because it ain't supposed to be like that. But then there's the payment processor problem, and that follows a similar logic. People basically pointed out their policy of withholding payments from banned accounts. It responded to that, saying, we have no interest in withholding anyone's earnings.
Yet no interest doesn't mean that you're not doing it. That's very political wording right there.
Basically, that policy existed before this crisis, and it exists to stop grifters from breaking their rules and profiting. It's just that in light of everything that's happened over the last fortnight, it's, not exactly ideal. But at least for now, they're trying to look forward, so here's basically what they've updated us with. They've tried talking to payment processors, and they've gotten a list of problematic topics, and all of those topics are now banned on their store.
Non-consensual content, real or implied underage or barely legal themes, incest or pseudo-incest, bestiality, trafficking, revenge, okay. Oh god.
That is of course even though not all those topics are illegal, and you'll need to remember that distinction because we'll come back to it later in the video. Because, well, fortunately for your content listening and watching experience, that's just the start. So here's the latest development. They've actually found out how to get around this whole problem. Basically, Itch can now re-index free adult content. The reason why is real simple. If the game's free, then payment processors aren't involved, so they can't complain. And that means that going forward, there's going to be a new system. Content warning tags for anything marked not safe for work. And this will basically help the Itch team start to rebuild paid access to tagged games, because those games are going to be back, and Itch is already reaching out to new payment processors, ones that perhaps may be comfortable with these products. They're also, of course, getting some hard definitions from existing partners, because hey, no one likes a soft definition. And that brings us to Stripe. They were nice and hard. They're a titan of the digital payment industry, so their position in this actually...
Stripe is becoming bigger and bigger every year. I'm seeing Stripe being used like a lot more often. I think even like this month alone, I've had to use Stripe like a number of times. Like Stripe is growing massively.
It does matter, and they told Itch they can't process anything for gratification, but more importantly, two things.
Fits the following definition: content designed for sexual, so that's just any not safe for work content. That's all adult content. Am I crazy? Am I nuts? That's literally all adult content.
One, they explain why, and two, responding to all this, Valve talked. And because of that, we're beginning to understand what the hell is going on. Valve usually say very little until they're absolutely forced, but obviously it's been a spicy few weeks and they've taken quite a lot of actions. And that means we've got a perfect, I mean perfect case study. Meet Vile Exhumed. Lovely name for a lovely game. It's from a solo dev and boutique horror publisher called Dread XP. And this game was close enough to release to actually have reviews in the press, but it's now not going to launch in Steam. The store page? Gone. The 3,000 plus wish lists? Deleted. And that blows because that is a real asset for a game developer. And honestly, if you're not in Steam, you're really...
Yeah, like that's ruined a game launch. That's 07 to your game. There is no like that's what yeah, okay. We've just decided to be like, you know what, this game, yeah, no, let's ruin its chances. That's insane.
Going to struggle in sales. Now, all this happened after bouncing around the approval process for a month, and the denial reason was this.
Hey everybody, maybe we should have known after plenty of creators told us Val Exhumed was too intense to cover that we might run into issues releasing the game. We've been waiting for build approval for about a month now, and since we haven't received any updates, we wanted to go ahead and preemptively let everyone know we're going to have to delay the launch. It would be ideal to have a date to give, and we're all going to have our fingers crossed that it'll be soon. But until approval comes through, it's not something we have control over. That's crazy.
Quote, sexual content with depictions of real people. But here's what's important. Right, and it's weird. Vile Exhumed is a horror game that's not meant to be exploitative. It's basically one of those fake desktop indie games. The whole thing is you unpack a mystery through FMVs and text logs. It explores misogyny and parasocial relationships via implied adult content. Now, the point is the player should feel uncomfortable. That's entirely the point. And it should have sailed through approval when you look at its content, especially with an established publishing partner. But this week it didn't. And without a statement from Valve, we really couldn't know what's happening internally. So the good news is we do have a statement from Valve. To hit Valve's response,
Based Valve, we love platforms that actually explain what's going on.
So Mastercard put out a public statement on, quote, recent headlines on gaming content. Hello. Anyway, they explicitly deny.
Clarifying recent headlines of gaming content, Mastercard has not evaluated any game or required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms, contrary to media reports and allegations. Our payment network follows standards based on the rule of law. Put simply, we allow all lawful purchases on our network. At the same time, we require merchants to have appropriate controls to ensure Mastercard cards cannot be used for unlawful purchases, including illegal adult content.
Asking any platform to restrict sales. And they say that they haven't actually evaluated a individual game.
We didn't do anything. It's like we didn't choose specifically these games. We didn't do that. No, we just tell what these platforms can and cannot like put on their platform, essentially. We don't specifically pick the games. This is the most like politicians thing ever. No. We don't control what games you can and cannot buy. That's still up to the merchants. But we do say that merchants have to follow like our rules. This is such a politician's tweet. Ew, it's so scummy. It's so scummy.
Their claim is they allow all legal products to be sold. They only ban illegal purchases. Visa actually told customers the same thing, which would certainly make the last few weeks really confusing, wouldn't it? Because lots of perfectly legal content has been delisted from these stores. And well, that is why Valve kind of just went and shot Mastercard and Visa down almost immediately. So, Valve released a rare statement to Kotaku, and here's what they revealed. Mastercard refused to talk to them directly. Slap.
What? Mastercard denies pressuring Steam to censor SOW games. Mastercard did not communicate with Valve directly, despite our request to do so. Valve's statement said over email to Kotaku.
Instead, what happened is Mastercard talked to their network of payment processors and banks, and then those middlemen then went and talked to Valve. And they basically refused to accept Valve's own content policy. They said that Valve must follow Mastercard's rule 5.12.7. which is thrilling. What's that rule?
Oh, okay, so they do. Okay, surprise, surprise. There is a rule they have to follow. Wow, okay. Red-handed, raise it up. That's called red fucking handed. Holy shit. There is no rules that they need to follow. Oh, wait, apart from this one.
Well, that rule does ban illegal content, sure, but it also says any content that, quote, reflects negatively on Mastercard can be banned.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Any content that reflects negatively. There needs to be some kind of law to prevent such vague language like this. This is ridiculous. This could be anything. This could be literally anything. Oh, this week people decided that it's, you know, a really bad thing to have XYZ in your games. Yeah, so we don't want you to like put these games on your platform because it's a little bit controversial. A little bit controversial. That is so, bro, we need to get rid of vague language in like laws like this or like policies. It doesn't help anybody. It really does not help.
Or, this is the real banger, content that, quote, lacks serious artistic value. I'm really glad.
What does that mean? What does that mean? The corporation considers any of the following activities to be in violation of this rule. The sale offer of, and then the full compliance of the law, blah, 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 blah. The sale of a product or service, including an image, which is patently offensive and lacks serious artistic value, such as, by way of example and not limitation, images of non-consensual sexual behavior, sexual exploitation of a minor, mutilation of personal body part, abuse. It's like, what does, like, this, it's so broad. This is so scummy. People cannot be doing this. Corporations cannot be doing this.
Content that, quote, lacks serious artistic value. I'm really glad that they are the people who now, yes, judge what serious and unserious artistic value is. Cool. Awesome that payment processors are now the judges of art.
Because that could even get into like any 18+ game that involves violence or gore. Any kind of horror game where if you see someone's arm gets ripped off, or any fucking like violent like game like that do exist, like all of those are gone. It's not just like sexual stuff. It's like any kind of like violent imagery like that. It's so strange. That's so many games. That goes beyond just like you know, not the NSFW games. This is like the gore, the horror game, the thrill games, like those. It's like it breaches into so much.
Fantastic. And if you breach that rule, Mastercard can revoke your ability to process transactions and impose a 200 grand fine. And that's where this
Why do they get to fine? Why would they get to fine?
All falls apart. It's also why Rule 15 exists on Steam. That was the rule, if you remember, basically said any content that may break payment processor rules, that Valve basically can kick that off Steam. Because, well, turns out this, what we just talked about, explains why Valve said may break. Really blows. Now, the content that's being removed, well, unless you're in specific territories looking at specific games, it's legal. And this is where Stripe then come in. Stripe confirmed this in their response to Itch. They said they can't process anything related to gratification. And the reason why? Well, according to Stripe, it's restrictions placed on them by their banking partners. Not by the law, by banking partners.
Oh, okay. So Stripe's getting fucked over. I assume PayPal might be the same. Banking partners. I wonder who that is.
Because ultimately, it's about risk management. It's PR risk of being targeted by groups like Collective Shout. So, hello again to you guys. But there's all
these goddamn payment processors and bank partners bending down to the whims of just loud, shouty people. Literally, they are shouty people. Bending to the whims of shouty people will forever be goddamn cringe. That will forever be goddamn cringe. Want to listen to the actual people who use your services rather than these groups or like lobbyists that are trying to do anything like this. Oh my god.
Also a higher risk of chargebacks on adult products, and this would be one of the unit economic problems that we'd be dealing with here. And as GameIndustry.biz highlighted, basically they're losing money on refunds from embarrassed customers. But I think what's kind of key is that over these last few weeks, the real challenge to this whole system has actually been you. Turns out rebellions can kind of work, so the internet exploded with stories, YouTube did, it was quite a time. People were reaching out to Visa and Mastercard, just inundating their call centers. Yeah, so you're working in a call center, maybe you're a robot, who knows, but just legions of gamers over the horizon, flooding your phone lines. Now, this
You will not stop the gamers gooning. That's one thing you can guarantee. That is literally one thing you can guarantee. You will not stop the gamers from being able to goon. They will have that goonery back. You cannot take it away from them. They will rise. There'll be a revolution. That will be the Gamerguna revolution. That is insane. That's a W moment, bro. Gamers rise. Holy shit. Gamers actually pick up a phone and talk to someone else, and it's like Mastercard employees. That's crazy.
That scripts circulated because, as you know, call centers all rely on scripts. And because people got scripts, well, we're gamers. We made guides. So you would basically end up with people having guides on how to reach various departments. And this would cover things like the right keywords to say. And the overall approach was never be aggressive, feign ignorance to waste their time. And some people even found a few allies working in these call centers. And what really pushed this is that many of the plans and many of the guides for dealing with these companies, well, those came from artists and creatives. And the reason why is those people have already been forced from sites like Gumroad. So basically, they've seen this whole playbook before. But this time, what's a bit different is we're actually seeing a real impact. As an example, Aftermath tracked the pattern over time, and as more and more call center resources got eaten up, the responses from these companies changed. And per their source, they went from, quote, respectful to defensive with each passing day. Others reported something that's also interesting, that across multiple calls, they got different scapegoats as for who was actually to blame.
Visa call center is now telling me that it isn't Visa, but banks that are pressuring Steam itch to remove adult content. Not sure how true that is or how to direct the comment from there. How about it's all of them? How about it's Visa, it's Mastercard, it's all the banks? What if it's the people that own the banks as well? It goes so deep. This goes so deep. This is way more than like payment processes, like 1,000%. 1,000%. This is all about control. That's what it is. It's all about control, and there are a group of people, a number of people who want to control what it is that you are able to consume. That's what this comes down to, and that's such an abuse of like freedoms.
Blame here. So the pressure just kept on
It's
building.
an abuse of freedoms.
These companies then felt forced to address mainstream headlines because it turned out that their whole policies designed around avoiding bad PR led to them getting
no one cared about. Most people didn't give a fuck about collective shout.
Bad PR, because whenever someone like me can sit down on the internet and say, hey everyone, Mastercard now get to decide what is
this is like Mr. K, you say this in XDD, but it's like true. This is exactly what a lot of like crypto people have been warning about for like so long, right? You do not control your money. You don't own having your money in a bank. You don't own your money. You don't control your money. You don't have full freedom over your money and your currency and your earnings. Having centralized currency, you do not own it. You don't have full control of it, which is why decentralization of currency is becoming such a huge thing. It's why you get to directly control all the time and own exactly what it is that you have.
Is not artistically valid. That's obviously pretty bad for them. Now, what all of this pressure did is reveal the truth here. That this is not happening because of laws. It's happening because of these companies' policies. Now, these are private companies, and they are deciding how stores work. They're deciding how art gets distributed and what even is constituted as art. Now, Itch found a shortcut here to distribute free content, and that would essentially work for now. It's a stopgap measure. Maybe some people could accept donations, or maybe you could find some of the more, Yeah, we say this as like gacha, but we could relate to gacha for a moment. Like, what if there is another group that lobbies for payment processors or banks or bank partners to be like, hey, we don't think that people should be gambling or spending money on games that encourage gambling ideals. Also, like any kind of gacha, for example, right? And then it spreads from there. People are like, well, sorry, like we don't allow you to be able to spend your money using on these types of games that have these different gacha mechanics. Like, who knows? Who knows? Oh, just full liberal, do whatever you want. Payment processors, right? To maybe do DLC. It's been a long running thing in the Aero game sector. You get the game for free, and then there's some sketchy site you can get a bunch of DLC from it that's the real spicy stuff. But that's not an overall market solution, and obviously there's been a chilling effect here. There's a humongous, just false positive rate that has hurt so many developers. and it just erodes confidence in the market, and that is bad for the industry as a whole. This is obviously not a viable situation. Players and platforms are looking for solutions, and the good news is, next time, we'll take a look at what the industry has proposed to fix this entire goddamn mess. So stay tuned to that, and if you want a nice family story that doesn't involve gratification, or maybe unlike some of these games, check out this one on Ubisoft, because they are keeping it in the family.
This was the IW video. I love Berlilar's videos on this kind of stuff, that he gets to like explain things in a good way, understandable way for me to like understand. This is a big W video. I appreciate y'all. This is crazy. I knew about this whole situation, but I didn't know how it started and what its current position is. But yeah, anything that takes away people's freedoms, I think is just like omega cringe. And this could spread to so many things beyond just like NSFW sexual content. Anything that people deem problematic, that they lobby enough for that's a problem. If companies and banks and pay processors could fall to those sorts of demands, then we have a problem for the future. Like, who determines what is good and bad and what we can and cannot have? It's just not okay. Here having Revs covering this topic, but they're covering on a daily basis. Got you. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. Make sure to subscribe right now to gain 2 inches on your PP. I appreciate y'all. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm live every single day on Twitch and on Kick. I appreciate y'all. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Twitch.tv/Captain Cabinetz, Captain Cabinetz.